you born?
I was born on Hall Avenue in Zanesville, Ohio, May the 26th, 1926.
How far back can you trace your family history, and what do you know about your ancestors?
Well, I lived on Elm Street when I was just a little girl, and I went to kindergarten. Then I went to the first grade.
What do you know about your ancestors?
Oh, my ancestors?
Yeah.
Okay, my mother and my daddy, they were Frank and Ona Moore. And my name used to be Moore, Pauline Moore. But I like Polly better.
Next question.
How much did things cost when you were a child?
Well, they were a lot cheaper now than they were, then than they are now. I used to go to the store for my mother, and candy bars were 5 cents a piece. And she'd give me, a nickel to buy a candy bar, but she wanted me to buy a loaf of bread. So I got a candy bar for 5 cents.
Next question.
What kind of transportation did people use?
Well, back in my day, my daddy had a Model T Ford. It was a Model T Ford. 1920, I think it was 1923. But I can't remember that far back. But when I was just a baby in 1926, he had a antique car too, and I was sitting on the running board, and I got up in the middle of the night and I wanted Daddy to take me a ride, and he did. He fired up the automobile and took me for a ride around the block. Then I was happy about that.
Next question.
Oh, did it go away?
Oh.
What's your password?
115321.
How was home life different? How did you
Wash.
How did you wash your clothes?
How did you heat your home?
How did you heat your home?
How did you communicate with others who didn't live with you?
How did you communicate with those who didn't live with you? What did you do for fun?
Okay, so the first question was, how did you wash your clothes when you were a kid?
Well, Mother had an outbuilding, and in the outbuilding was a wash machine, and you had to start it. It had a motor on it, and it made the awful noise. And we'd wash the clothes, and then we'd have to hang them on the clothesline because we didn't have no dryer. But that did a good job. When the wind was blowing, it was flopping along, and that was nice.
How did you heat your home?
What?
How'd you stay warm? How'd you heat the house?
Well, Daddy had a big stove in the living room, and he'd fire it up at night, and we'd lay some bricks on the floor by the stove, and that's what kept your feet warm in the bed. You had a brick in the bed, and that kept your feet warm. But then when the fire went out, the house was cold, and you had a lot of blankets to cover up with.
How did you communicate with people that didn't live with you?
Oh, Mother and Daddy were awfully nice. I had a happy childhood. Mother and Daddy was so nice.
How did you talk to people who didn't live with you? Did you have a phone? Did you write letters?
Well, we had a telephone on the wall when we lived up at the Laycock store out by Ellis. And you had to ring a telephone like that. If somebody had, one long and two shorts, you'd go long and then two shorts. 1, 2. And then they would answer.
What did you do for fun?
Fun? Oh, I had fun all the time.
What'd you do?
Oh, just played merry-go-round and danced around and didn't have anything except, whatever you was doing out in the yard or something. I did cartwheels. I'd go down on my hands and turn cartwheels over and over.
What kind of jobs did people have?
What kind of jobs did they have?
Well, what kind of people, what time? When I was just little?
Yeah. What did your mom and dad do for a job?
My daddy worked for the railroad company, and Mother just took care of us children because I had a sister, Merlina, and then I was Pauline, and then Maxine and Gerald. But she didn't have Frank and Larry, because I was in high school at Jefferson High School in Dresden, Ohio. That's where I graduated. So when I was in high school, she said, I got a surprise for you, Pom. And I said, what kind of a surprise? She said, we're going to have a baby. She said, Daddy and I are going to have a little baby. And that's when they got Frankie. And then a little bit later, 15 months later, I think it was, she had Larry.
No.
So I had a sewing machine that you treadle with your foot, and I made clothes for them.
What was your first job? Do you remember your first job?
Yeah. I was a telephone operator.
Yeah.
High telephone operator. I'd say, number, please. And the people would say, I had this headset on my head, and I would say, number, please. And they would say, 7340, ring-a-ding, 3 rings. And so I would ring with my thumb, and my thumb got awful sore, pushing down on the little button. But it was kind of fun. After a while, I was there for a little while, and I was one of the head operators. And a lot of times somebody would plug in, where I was sitting, and would listen to me. Because, boy, I had a whole bunch of strings, just plugged in. And you'd have to, when the light came on, you stuck it in and you said, number, please. And then you'd ring, then there was a board up there, and you'd have to put the plug in the board, And if it was the line was busy, it made a little dinging sound. I said, open numbers, please. Would you try it again?
Where did you go to school and how did you get there?
How did I go to school and how did I get there?
What school did you go to and how did you get there? Did you walk, ride a bus?
Yeah, when I was in grade school, it was Sheridan School in Zanesville, Ohio, and I walked up Elm Street, got on Hamelin Avenue, and went to the school. And I was in the first grade. I never went to kindergarten. I was in the first grade at that time.
And you walked to school in first grade?
Yeah.
You know how long it was? How far?
Well, not too far.
Not too far. All right.
Maybe
That's
a
when we
mile.
lived on Elm Street.
What was your school like?
It was nice. I was kind of scared of the one teacher.
Do you remember
They
her?
called her Mrs. Wilson. Mrs. Wilson.
Yeah, and she was scary.
She kind of scared me, kind of. I got kind of nervous if I had to say something, And I say, Miss Wall. She said, "You can go sit down, Polly. I heard you." And so I'd go sit down. I felt like I was going to faint when I'd get up in front of the class, you know. Get up in front of the class to say something. Because I was scared. All the kids, you know, like 45 kids in the room, they were looking at me. And I thought, she said, "Polly, you can sit down." And she said, "I think you're kind of sick." And I did. Sit right down.
Who was your hero when you were young?
Who was your hero when you were young and why?
Did you have a hero, somebody that you looked up to when you were younger?
Well, my daddy, I guess. He was a nice man.
Yeah.
And he liked me.
Well,
He
I'm glad that
really
he
liked
you.
me.
I'm glad he liked
Yeah. Mother really liked me too. But my sister Merlina was kind of cranky, and she'd stay up in her room and look at magazines and didn't communicate. But then when my Maxine was born, my sister Maxine, we got along real good because we slept together.
Can you tell a story from your childhood?
You got any
Can
any funny stories or good stories from when you were a
Oh,
child?
Everything was funny. I've been happy forever.
Tell,
I'm still happy.
tell about almost chopping your finger off.
Oh yeah, we lived on the farm, you know, and my brother Gerald, he was my brother, and we went out and we raised chickens, and we needed a chicken, you know, for dinner. So he laid the chicken down on a board or on a rock, and I took a hatchet. I was going to chop the little chicken's head off. That's a shame, but that's how you did it. And I almost chopped my finger off. See, I got a scar right there. See that little scar right there? I about chopped my finger off. I said, "Gerald, I about chopped my finger off." And he said, "Well, it ain't clear off."
So did you go to the doctor?
No, you didn't go to no doctor.
Yeah.
Mother just wrapped a, you know, thing around, and she said it'd be okay. But we didn't have a bathroom up there. We had to go to an outside privy.
Yeah.
It had 4 seats on it.
Uh-huh.
I don't know how 4 people go into the bathroom at the same time.
Well, if you needed to go, you got to go, right? It didn't matter who else was in there.
And didn't flush, you know.
Right.
Daddy had to throw limestone in it, like lime rock,
Uh-huh.
white stuff, to make it so it wouldn't smell, you know.
What's the most important lesson life has taught you?
What's the most important lesson you've learned in your life?
Well, to live a long life like I've lived and be happy. Most people aren't happy when they're my age. See, I'm 92 and I'm just as happy as I can be. I've been happy forever. Okay?
Okay. Is there anything else you'd like to tell us about, Grandma?
No, I think I've about got my history.
That covers it?
No, I really enjoy you guys. I love my little grandchildren, Lily and Gally. And I got other grandchildren too, you know, Don and Deanne and a whole bunch of them. And I got married to George Basil.
Mm-hmm.
He was a handsome hunk of man. And we had Sherry, my little Sherry. He didn't have her, but I had her, Sherry. And we had Sherry, Kathy. She lives in Marietta. Then I had my Connie Sue. My Connie Sue. I just love her so much, and I love my little Sherry too. And then I had Carla. And I don't see her very much. She's kind of, she lives in a group home, and she's just kind of, she's always happy to see me, because when we take her to church, she'll point to me and she'll say, "There's my mother," out loud, you know, in the church. And then I had Jerry, my Jerry. I had a little boy, and he lived down by Marietta, and he married Patty. He's so sweet. He was married before to Penny, and they had 2 children. They had 2 children.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Thank you, Grandma.
Neely and Jake.
Thank you. You did great.